Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Sawakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko upanayiko pachatam veditabo vinyuhiti. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading inwards to be experienced individually by the wise. So, greetings, everyone. Welcome to another Wednesday evening with the Clear Mountain Monastery community. So this evening, we'll be going into online Sutta study, and I'll be giving an introduction to 4 or 5, depending on the timing, of the best resources available online for whether you're beginning your investigation of the suttas or the Buddha's discourses, or whether you've been doing it for some time, or if you've got a totally offline practice of studying the Buddha's teachings, these websites are a great introduction and a great further opportunity for exploration. And as I present them, they'll become increasingly more nuanced or provide increasingly specialty options for study. And these 4 are reading faithfully, access to insight, Suta Central, digital Pali reader, and then perhaps the Sutta Citation helper. And I'll be going through all of these with screen share. So before beginning, I think it's good to just recollect this saying of the Buddhas about the Dhamma. So this is a statement which the Buddha used again and again in describing his Dhamma. The Dhamma is well expounded by the Blessed One, apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading inwards to be experienced individually by the wise. So each one of those 6 individual characteristics can lead us back to our own experience. And that's really where the Dhamma is to be found. Whether we're doing sutta study offline or online, or whether we're on the meditation cushion, these are always good principles to recollect. But especially when we leave the meditation cushion and start opening up books, even the suttas or the discourses of the Buddha, these can be easily intellectualized and therefore trivialized in a sense. We have, many of us, or most of us maybe, have been reading all sorts of books for most of our life, and we've got a lot of habits of reading which we haven't really given much attention to. And so it can be very easy to go out, this concept of asava, to flow out. You can become more and more immersed in your book, in your text, and forget about your posture and forget about actually where your mind is, just becoming totally losing yourself in the content. Whereas with Dhamma study, with Sutta studies, we really want to be paying attention and always leading things inwards and remembering the present moment and remembering the body and the mind right here. So here on the altar, we've got the print copies of the 4 main sections of the discourse basket of the Pali Canon. So the Digha Nikaya, the long discourses, the medium-length discourses, the connected discourses, and the numerical discourses. And this is the Sutta Nipata, one of the parts of the minor anthologies. And if you don't know what all of those are, then you've come to the right place, because each, I think 3 out of the 4 or 5 sites that we're going to look at give great introductions to the suttas and how you can begin studying them or how you can continue your studies once you've already started. So let's just jump into the first of our 4 wonderful resources. And this is reading faithfully. So this is a website, readingfaithfully.org, which was created by a monk, and he very humbly doesn't include his own name, just gives a dedication on one of the pages to his teacher, who is Bante um, who has a monastery in West Virginia. But this, I thought to start with this page because it's very good at just giving you an idea of, quote, sutta practice. What does that even mean? And it's a very friendly introduction. It's not too heavy and doesn't use a lot of terminology which people might not be used to in the beginning. So we have this header, this menu up here, starting with sutta practice. So what each of the items in this list are, they are essays. So what is sutta practice? What does that mean? He defines it as, broadly speaking, a sutta practice is a regular habit of interacting directly with the suttas or the words of the Buddha in a way that lifts the heart and brings us to faith in the Blessed One, his Dhamma, and the Sangha of enlightened disciples. And then each of these other pages is just a continuing description of what it might mean, how we can get our minds around this concept of studying the Buddha's words in a very, in different ways. Actually, he provides a number of different ways we can read the suttas, how we can develop that practice, how much to read, when to read, and a way of actually keeping track of your studies. So then from there, he's got different lists of the different canonical collections, the different books of the canon, and breaks those down. Both has an introduction to the 5 major sections of the canon, gives a description of them, and then also gives links to where they can be found online in English translation and where they can be purchased for offline use. Then has further suggestions about anthologies or suggestions based on time or experience, etc. So just a great resource. Here in the audio section, these are all sorts of references for listening to discourses. And he's got quite a number of these different resources. One in particular worth mentioning is this Pali audio, which has great readings of many different translations of actually most, if not all, of the Majjhima Nikaya, and I believe the Digha Nikaya as well, and are working through the numbered discourses. So yeah, this is a good resource, which not everyone might be aware of. And for downloads, we've got ways to download both the suttas and specific resources which he has created, like a list of all of the Nikayas, and you can check off which ones you've read, which suttas you've read. And then here are free ebook translations in multiple formats for how to read offline. So yeah, this is Reading Faithfully, a great place to start your study of the suttas. The next resource is Access to Insight, which is www.accesstoinsight.org. And this, I believe, was actually begun in 1993, based out of the Berry Center for Buddhist Studies. A gentleman named John Bullitt was the first person to put things together, and basically continued running it until 2013 or so, when it got turned back to the Berry Center for Buddhist Studies. But it's a great place also for continuing your studies, specifically in English. So we've got great, and what a nice thing about this site is that it's not just suttas, but you've also got essays by Theravāda teachers from all the traditional Theravāda countries. You've got a huge selection of translations by teachers from the Thai forest tradition, perhaps the biggest repository that I know of teachings from the Thai forest tradition. Most, I believe, of the both translations of modern teachers and suttas on Access to Insight are done by Thanissaro Bhikkhu, Ajahn Jeff. But yeah, introductory essays, I believe, by John Bullitt on what is Theravada Buddhism, what does it mean to befriend the suttas, and then a self-guided tour, which to introduce yourself to the canon. Then a number of neat resources you can just search by sutta. So these are all arranged by name. That might not be the easiest place to start, but by subject. So this is a really neat resource for searching for different subjects. Say you want to know, what does the Buddha say about death? And you can just go down, and he's got all of these different resources with references to suttas. This is AN, and over time and on all of these websites, you'll find resources for what the different shorthand abbreviations are. So AN is Anguttara Nikaya 557. That'll take us directly there. We've got the translation, and then we've got some notes. And then another neat thing about this is that you can click up here at the top. You have a link to the Pali version. And again, this isn't the easiest way to read Pali. We'll go into some more user-friendly Pali resources, but it is available there. And yeah, you've got all these other, whatever subject you want to look at. What is the Abhidhamma? So descriptions of that. What is an arahant? And you've got all of these different sutta resources and description or essays by different modern day Theravada teachers, Bhikkhu Bodhi, Ajahn Mahabua, etc. So a great resource to search for subject. Then we've also got by proper name. So if you want to find all the suttas by Maha Kachana, then you could just go here or let's say you want to read all of Mahapajapati, the first venerable bhikkhuni, then you can just find her or any of the other people, famous heroes of the Pali Canon by their names there. Or you can search by simile, which is pretty cool. So, I know that simile about acrobats. Where is that? You can go here and find, it's in the Samyutta Nikaya, verse 47.19. Okay, and you just read that. So these different options, or if you wanted to go by translator or just straight go by the different verses. So these are the translations on this website. And again, one thing about Access to Insight is that it does not have full translations of any of these four main Nikayas. It's got partial translations, mostly by what Thanissaro Bhikkhu chose to translate. So we've got the first and second sutta, but then it skips numbers 3 through 8, and then goes to the next in the long discourses. And similar with the other discourses in the medium length Majjhima Nikaya section, we'll have many of the suttas, but not all of the suttas, I don't believe. So there's a break there. And here we've got options for reading from different translators as well, which is a nice option on Access to Insight. So an overall nice place to start for reading the suttas. And then again, in the library, you've got all these different modern teachers. So from every Buddhist country, Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Western teachers as well. And these are English translations of their works. So that's Access to Insight, and just a great resource for with good translations. The next resource we'll go to is SuttaCentral.net. So this has all of the suttas, all of the discourses from the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, the long discourses, the medium length discourses, the connected discourses, and the numerical discourses. They've all been translated and made freely available here on this site by Bhante Sujato. I believe this website started up in 2005 with a collaboration by initial idea coming from Bhante Analia, and then John Kelly, one of the people who helped Bhikkhu Bodhi with the Majjhima Nikaya work, and then eventually Bhante Sujato jumped in and has really developed this site with a whole slew of supporting people supporting the effort and making it really useful. It's a very active website, and you've got a related site called discussion.sutacentral.net, where you can actually have people, and it's a very active discussion board for people talking about the suttas. But on this site, in terms of actually finding specific suttas, you have to know your way around a bit before you are able to find suttas in this, because what is the primary or the most unique feature of Suta Central is that you can do comparisons between the Pali canon, the Chinese canon, and any Tibetan or Sanskrit versions of texts. And that's great for scholars and people who are getting more in depth in their knowledge and understanding of the Buddha's teachings. But it can be a little bit daunting if you don't yet know the structure of the suttas and don't know where to find discourses. That said, there is a section on with indexes, so similar to Access to Insight. This is sutacentral.net/subjects. You've got a similar index of subjects which have hyperlinks to the different suttas. So this is a really nice resource as well. Similarly with suttas, there's that acrobat discourse again, proper names. So and also particular terminology. This is basically a glossary. So that's for a similar resource to Access to Insight. But just to give you an idea for people who are getting more into the study. So we'll just go to the basket of discourses. This is the Sutta Pitaka, the second of the three baskets, Pitaka. And we can choose the long discourses, this green one, or the middle discourses, the linked discourses, the numbered discourses, or the minor discourses. But then once we go there, we'll find that this first one, as you see, it's Digha Nikaya. That's the Pali, P-L-I. But beneath that, we've got the Dirghagama, which is in LZH, which is Zhongwen, which is Chinese. And similar, we have other versions of the Digha Nikaya. But if you just want to look up things in English, then you go to the Digha Nikaya, but then you kind of have to know how the different section sutta collections are organized, because the Digha Nikaya is traditionally organized into 3 different sections. I believe there is a way to shortcut to all suttas. You can do that. So now we've just got Digha Nikaya number 1 all the way through Digha Nikaya number 34, the last of the suttas. And the cool thing here, as with Access to Insight, you can go to different translations. So we've got Bhikkhu Sujato's translation and T.W. and Carolyn Rise David's translation, also with the Pali. And here you can see different translations into different languages. This is another amazing feature of Suta Central. So we've got the Pali here, but then we've got a Bengali version in Bengali script. You've got versions in German and Spanish and Hebrew, Indonesian, Italian, Burmese, Portuguese, Thai. And there's more neat features with this. So if we go to, say, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, then we can actually go up here to the views, and if possible, yes, some of the discourses have the capacity to go to see line by line translations. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. So here's the view. We put view the root text with translation. So here's just the English, but we can also go side by side view. And now we've got the English on the left and the Pali on the right. So thus, so have I heard is Eva Me Sutang. Or if we don't like that left-right, we can go line by line. So now we've got the English in one font and then the Pali in another font. And then we can also have a word-by-word lookup. So yeah, if you click on any of these words, then a definition will pop up at the bottom of the screen. Let's see if, yeah. So these are just some of the features. This is a really powerful tool, and gives you lots of options for seeing different translations. This has more translations than Access to Insight. And yeah, it's just a very robust tool, although it does take a little bit of time to get used to. So I hope everyone checks it out and yeah, starts exploring there. So our next resource is the digital Pali reader. So this is, yeah, it's a bit more technical because it's basically based on Pali. But once you have got an idea of the organization of the different scriptural collections, then you can find the Pali and English translations. So we've got three main search tools, or three main functions here on Digital Pali Reader, which is digitalpalireader.online. And if you just search that in Google, you'll be able to get the homepage. But in this navigation link, say if you know what the short, if you are a little bit savvy and know the abbreviation and number of your discourses, you can just put it in the quick link here, and then it will appear over here. But if you don't know that, then you can just search by the text. So the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle link discourses, okay, the first book of that, and then we go down, and in the first Vagga or chapter, and then you go to the Mula Pariyaya Sutta, and then you click this button over here, and then now you've got the Pali, and you click in this little down arrow over here, and you can then get a side-by-side English translation. So this, I believe, is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, and this is Thanissaro Bhikkhu's translation. So you can do side-by-side translations. And then as you see at the bottom already, if you click any word here, similar to Suta Central, although more comprehensive, you get definitions of the term from multiple dictionaries. So here, the red term, which is defined down here, is the word in the Pali Text Society's Pali English Dictionary, and the blue definition here is from the Buddhadatta's Concise Pali English Dictionary. And then you can compare, okay, so you've got a sutta that you want to study, yeah, and you know okay, let's look, what's that sutta that I like? Oh yeah, the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, that's an interesting one. Then you go to the section, and then open up. Here we have 4 different translations that we can compare one at a time. And then, yeah, what does viharati mean? Okay, it means to live or to abide. And then we have Bhikkhu Bodhi translates it as living, etc. So that's the general navigation tab. And then you've got a search tab. So this is really cool. So earlier today, I had wanted to find this phrase, yatavadi tatakari, which means as he speaks, so he acts. And then if you know the Pali, and it doesn't have to be a complex phrase, it can just be a single word, then you look it up. And then, yeah, you've got every instance in the whatever suttas and collections I select over here, then you have those instances over here, and I can go straight. Okay, it occurs in the Digha Nikaya. It doesn't occur in the Majjhima Samyutta, but it does occur in the Anguttara. Then you can just go straight to that sutta, and there you go. So it's a bit of a very it's got a lot of tools you can use for it. And here's the final tab here on the digital Pali reader, where you can search for we've got different dictionaries. So the Pali English dictionary, let's look for viharati, which we already learned means to live. And you can get different translations. So that's the Pali English Pali dictionary. So in the Pali English dictionary, we have that. But say, it does open up different tabs. So you have to, it's a little bit hard to show here, but yeah, so we've got multiple different Pali dictionaries, the PTS, Pali Text Society's dictionary, the Dictionary of Pali Proper Names. So say I want to find Chunda, then it will give me all of these different chundas and then an explanation of who they were. Or say I want to know an English word. How do you translate renunciation? And we've got multiple different Pali words here. And then I could, okay, pabaja, that's an interesting, means going forth. And then I could search for that in the, over here in the search panel, and find every place that it appears. So you get the idea. And the final resource is the Sutta Citation Helper, which basically gives you access to, this is run through or by the same monk who does the Reading Faithfully site. But what this does is it actually lets you, if you know the sutta that you're looking for, so MN, that's Majjhima Nikaya 1, then it will give you then access to these various different resources, which I've gone through and showed people. So here we can go straight to the Suta Central versions of Majjhima Nikaya number 1, the Dharma Talks, this is Thanissaro Bhikkhu's website, or the digital Pali reader, go to the Pali, or even a Pali audio version of it. So that's if you know the citation. But then you can also, basically, this is a shortcut link to all of the, this is the Suta Central, kind of a quick view of the Suta Central site. So you can go to the Majjhima Nikaya, and it just will take you to all of those discourses or all of the Suta Central links, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, or Ancient Buddhist Texts, which is another fabulous web resource, which I would recommend for people, but yeah, perhaps another time. So again, yes, this is the Sutta Citation Helper at sutta.readingfaithfully, one word.org. So with that, maybe open things up to questions. And I'd be curious to hear how other people use those sites or find them difficult, or if you had any questions about how to use those sites, or if they seem intimidating, this would be a great time to post your question, and hopefully we'll get to it. So just some thoughts. So just a random rambling. That's the person posting. I love reading faithfully. Daily Sutta emails, they're great. Actually, yeah, thank you very much. I meant to reference that. So I would highly recommend that. So what Random Rambling is talking about is if you go to readingfaithfully.org, then at the top of the page, you've got this Learn More option, or the Get Daily Suttas. They go to the same place. Just click that. And now you can just put your email in here, and then you'll subscribe. And then you'll get a new sutta or a sutta excerpt delivered to your inbox every single day. And it's wonderful. The monk who curates these lists does a fantastic job. And each month has a different theme. So this month is harmony. They haven't been posted yet, but last month was anger and hatred. So you've got all these different suttas based on anger and hatred. So fantastic resource. So Random Ramblings, thank you very much for mentioning that. Yeah, it's a great resource. Thank you. Okay. So this is a note. So ATI, and once you become more of a Pali nerd, you'll start realizing these other abbreviations over and above the suttas. So ATI stands for Access to Insight. So Access to Insight's subject index is so great and was a great launchpad for study before some of those other sites existed. So yeah, it's a great point. That was my real entry. And one of the nice things about Access to Insight is that because it's not every sutta, it's just the ones which Ajahn Tanisaro and others felt were most worthy of translating first. Because Ajahn Tanisaro is a very practice-oriented monk, and because he's from the West, from America, he does an amazing job of curating these suttas, and you can jump from one sutta to another. So I'll just give an example. Let's see. Yeah, so share the screen again. So going to Access to Insight. One of the neat things is you've got the sutta translation. This is the Satipatthana Sutta, Majjhima number 10. But at the bottom, you'll have all these see also. So if you're just getting into the suttas and you want to know, you find one sutta that you like, on Access to Insight, you'll have these other suttas which are related. So this is a great sutta to start with, actually, the Satipatthana Sutta, because it's so practice-oriented, which is what many of us come to Buddhism with. But then you can get all these other direct links to related content, suttas with related subject matter. So that's great. And you don't get as many, if I actually wouldn't recommend reading from beginning to end. That's one way to do it, but it's also easy for people to get disheartened. The first discourse of the long discourses, the Brahmajala Sutta, is very, very philosophical, similar with the first discourse of the middle length discourses, the Mula Pariyaya, very philosophical. And it's possible that you might open up these books and think, oh yeah, I'll start with the first discourse, and then just get disheartened. So I know people that could have happened to me, and it might happen to you if you were to go that route. I know some people who were totally fascinated by those initial discourses, and it did work for them to go from beginning to end. But doing a more thematic study is also a neat way to do it. So this person is just mentioning, oh, this is Ajahn Kovilo, just mentioning Suta Central's discussion forum, which is great, which is, I believe it's discourse slash Suta Central, where it's very lively interaction with people asking great questions. And we might actually have another video just going into that, because could be a neat community to join there. A lot of people asking great questions and a lot of other people providing great answers. So good timing. Question. I have been unable to find Anguttara 142.2. So yeah, so hopefully you will have been able to find that. So one thing to note is that these different sites sometimes have different numbering conventions. So with the middle length discourses, there are 152 discourses, and those are pretty uniformly numbered. So if you want to find Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 45, that's going to be the same whether you go to Access to Insight or Suta Central or any of these other sites, ancient Buddhist texts. That will be the same. But with the Anguttara or the Samyutta, they might have different numbers. And why that is because Access to Insight is taking the Thai Tipitaka. So just a bit more background, the Pali canon, Pali is the name of the language, but it doesn't have any particular script. So it takes the script of whatever country it's found in. So in Thailand, people read the Pali Tipitaka in Thai script. In Burma, they read it in Burmese. In Sri Lanka, in Sinhala script. And that's in most of these canons. So the canon in Burma, the canon in Sri Lanka, the canon in Thailand are very almost identical, but there are variant readings, and there is a variant way of numbering the discourses. So if you have a number, like a citation, like you've got AN Anguttara Nikaya 142.2, and you go to Access to Insight or Suta Central and you can't find it, then just go forward or back 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 suttas, and you might be able to find it. So no, the Anguttara is structured weirdly. So in the particulars, that's kind of true. But overall, the overarching structure is one of increasing numbers. So you've got 11 different divisions. Everything in the first division is related to the number 1. So you have this one thing, O monks, leads to detriment. This one thing leads to growth in the Dhamma. This is the foremost disciple, the singular foremost disciple in psychic powers, etc. And one thing you'll find in at least the numerical discourses is also a thematic index, and you can also search by subject in these wisdom publication editions of the suttas for offline practice. Okay. So this is great timing for me. I just started reading a book, Buddha Dhamma, Natural Laws and Values for Life by Payutto. And yes, it's recommended. Ajahn, on our Discord server, the Clear Mountain Discord server, we have a whole study group of people who are reading Buddha Dhamma together, actually reading it out loud together on certain days of the week and discussing it on other days of the week on Mondays, alternate Mondays. So that's a great book. And in that, you will have links to, his way of referencing suttas uses the abbreviation, so you have to get used to that. But they're also referring to old version, the Pali Text Society print editions of the the Pali canon. So I believe that Sutta, or reading faithfully, uh, does have a particular tool where you can enter in some of these more esoteric numbering systems, um, and be able to uh, find what it's referring to, either in the print edition or online. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit, you have to know. That's a bit of a trick. It's another video, I think, of how to find the Polytext Society translations or numbering system within the other numbering systems. So it's uplifting for me. I now want to go deeper. These resources will be wonderful. Yes, they are. They're amazing. And I would recommend, again, just going by theme, finding what you're most interested in, and then perhaps doing a subject search for other suttas or one of these see also links. So people are really trying to help find this particular sutta. So we have an Upasaka group reading Buddha Dhamma together twice a month if you're interested. Thank you for saying that. Yep, it's on the Clear Mountain Discord server. So I looked at the digital Pali reader once, but found it confusing. Thanks for the explanation. Yes, so just one other thing, I will share screen again with the digital Pali reader to share one very useful resource. Is up here, no, with question marks. So you go to the question mark page there and switch. Yeah, then that takes you to this list of explanatory videos, which are just fascinating. How to use the digital Pali reader for offline use, how to change the script. Yeah, you can view things in Burmese or Devanagari or Thai or Sinhala. So just great resources. So there are short YouTube videos about all of these different aspects. Digital Pali reader is very robust and a great resource, but you kind of have to experiment to figure out all the things you can do with it. Okay, I know Bhante G well and was on the board of the Bhavana Society for many, many years. Can you tell us who the monk is who started the website? I'm guessing he's Sri Lankan. He's not Sri Lankan, but since he doesn't give his name and I wasn't able to contact him before this video, I don't want to out him in case he wants to remain anonymous. But I believe on Reading Faithfully, there is a contact me option. So you could contact the creator, and I found him very responsive and incredible monk, very generous and extremely humble. Yeah, again, not putting his name on any of the many sites that he's authored and created. Okay, people are really wanting to help with this Sutta citation. All right. So yeah, that's a very quick and hurried, but hopefully not harried description of these 5 different great resources for studying the suttas online. So I hope everybody is able to look at them and just explore and just learn to love the suttas. So I just put a link in for our Clear Mountain Monastery Wednesday evening Zoom meeting, which is where we go to next. It's just a more interactive experience, so people can click there and then we can actually talk with one another. So hope everyone has a good night. Ajahn Nisbo, as usual, will be at St. Mark's for the gathering this Saturday. And I believe this is his last week on retreat. He will, of course, keep going alms round as he has for the whole of the winter retreat period. But yeah, you can see him this Saturday, and we'll be back again next week here on YouTube. And I hope everyone has a great week and a great weekend, and hopefully see some of you on Zoom. Okay, good night.